side? I'll just hold on to the antler. Yeah, let's go right here. I think. Yep.
There's Nathan. Here's the hot
All right, welcome to the last stop of the guided tour. Now, this area you see here is what an Athabascan campsite may have looked like before that first significant contact with Western culture. Anthropologists tell us that the Athabascans had to survive in some of the most difficult conditions known to man, and they have done so for over 10,000 years. Involvement with the Westerners is comparatively recent because that first contact was in the early 1800s with the Russians. Prior to that, the Athabascans lived entirely off the land. This meant that every day was a battle for survival. Therefore, the Athabascans had to become very efficient hunters and gatherers. They would often follow herds of game to provide for their family. Moose and caribou were two of the primary animals that they hunted. Now, the reindeer you see here are the domesticated relative of the caribou. The biggest difference between reindeer and caribou can't fly. No, I'm just kidding. Caribou are wild animals that travel in herds and often along the same migratory paths from one year to the next. Once the Athabascans have spotted these herds, they would begin placing snares and fences to funnel that herd down and to lead them to an area where an individual could be more easily harvested. Another advantage the Athabascans were able to have over these large game animals was by using snowshoes. Snowshoes allow a group of hunters to outmaneuver a solitary moose or caribou in deep snow conditions. Now, these snowshoes here are made of two pieces of bent birch webbed together with that rawhide babiche and a strip of moose hide for the binding. Now, these large game animals provided those early Athabascans with nearly everything that they needed to survive. The meat, the bones, and even the liquids were used. Nothing ever went to waste in their culture. The winter hide of the caribou was especially valuable to the Athabascans. As JR mentioned on the boat, each hair in this hide is hollow, which makes it lightweight and exceptionally warm. And that's why you may have noticed that in some of the beds we have here or around the rest of the village, the beds are made of lying down fresh spruce boughs and then topping that with a caribou hide. This would make for a lightweight, a warm, but most importantly, a portable mattress, because those early Athabascans were a nomadic group of people, and they would pack up everything they owned and travel up to 8 to 9 times per year. And that's why these three structures you see here are far more temporary than that giant log cabin that we just learned about at our last stop. This dome-like structure here is a portable shelter called a skin hut. It is made of young spruce poles that were steamed, bent, and fastened together, and then caribou hide is stretched around it for warmth and protection. That hole that you see at the top was often left there just so smoke can escape when they built a fire on the inside. And then when the Athabascans were ready to go to their next campsite, they would always pack up each one of those hides and take it with them because they're far too valuable to be left behind. So here you have the world's first mobile home. Then further to the right is a more temporary structure called a double lean-to. Double lean-tos were commonly used by hunters for their quick and easy setup. Spruce boughs are just laying over that spruce pole frame to help shed any falling rain or snow.
Now, we've talked a lot about the spruce tree, but the birch tree also supplied many important resources to the Athabascan people. And although we don't have an example of one growing nearby, I made Mason wake up really early this morning to chop this one down for you here. Now, birch trees are very tall, with white papery bark, green leaves, and in addition to the wood, there are two features of it that were especially valuable. The first was a fungus called punk, P-U-N-K. This fungus grew on the trunks of birch trees, and it's one of the main reasons why the Athabascans were able to survive those long, harsh winters. They would get a sharp rock and then bore a hole in the punk. Then they would place a burning ember from the fire inside, where it could smolder for up to a day or more. And then, when they're ready to leave camp, they would wrap that smoldering punk in moss and place it in a caribou hide carrying pouch. Then when they came to the next campsite, they would take it out of the pouch and use that ember to quickly establish a new fire. But this isn't my favorite part about the punk. My favorite part is that when you burn it in the summertime, it emits a black smoke that acts as a natural mosquito repellent. Another important feature of the resin you see along the seams of the boat is made of a mixture of spruce pitch, animal fat, and caribou or moose hair. Now, a canoe like this can hold up to 6 hunters for about 2 seconds. In reality, you can hold up to 2 hunters and all their gear. Now, made in a similar manner to the canoe is this birch bark basket. The Athabascans would use these baskets to gather, store, and even cook their food. Now, birch bark is pretty flammable, so what they would do is fill it partially full of water and throw in chunks of meat, roots, or berries, then rotate hot rocks from the fire in and out to bring the water to a slow boil. This was a process that could take hours, and so made days work. And then Baby did what babies are known to do best. Mom would take Baby out of the basket, dump those soiled contents, and then start all over again. So there you have the world's first biodegradable, earth-friendly, and reusable baby diaper. Now, it has been Mason and I's pleasure sharing with you folks our culture today. We are both very proud of our Alaska Native heritage, and we hope we left you all with the understanding that the Athabascans were a very talented and resourceful group of people who not only persevered through harsh conditions, but dealt with an increasing Western presence in our ancestral lands. As the next generation of Alaska Natives, we are carrying on our family's culture, tradition, and language. And we've only scratched the surface there, kind of on your right, is our newest display of 2 bullfighting moose who got their antlers locked together. Then if you take any trail towards the back of the village, you get to our dog yard, where you get to see those dogs and handler folks, and the native language Queenuckpuck. Thank you very much.
Where do I go? That way? We'll come back over here.